Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show on Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. Training camp marches on. The preseason is nigh. All 32 teams are taking it real seriously this year.
Oh, yeah.
They promise that they're actually going to try this. Now, fewer than ever are going to even try in the preseason. But actually, in the second half of the show, Denny and I are going to talk about some of the running backs who have to try this preseason because the teams might not try. A lot of second and third rounders. The preseason remains their everything. Jaydon Blue, Bhayshul Tuten, people of that nature. Many more on the list. We're going to get to that in the second half of the show. But to begin, a lot of news. James Cook, who we told you wasn't holding out because he wasn't, has decided to hold out after all. And by hold out, we, of course, mean hold in the nomenclature of the NFL, where he shows up, he says like his quad hurts or something, and then he just kind of stands around, doesn't do anything. That is happening. People are getting actually hurt at Bills camp. Khalil Shakir has a high ankle sprain. Could be a lot of fallout from that in the Bills skill core. Jordan Mason, is that his name? Jordan Mason, more hype behind Aaron Jones because he might not be behind him at all. We've already heard a lot of banter about this could be like a 50-50 backfield. Now we're saying it could be a genuine co-RB1 deal for ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. Then, I don't know, it's silly season. Nick Underhill is a very good reporter. So I'm trying to say Nick Underhill's silly season. We're getting to the part of the summer where Spencer Rattler is, quote, clearly outplaying someone. Tyler Shough, we're going to talk about that if it means anything. Kaleb Johnson, people are panicking. Denny panicking on Cam Skattebo. He said it's never been more over. People panicking on the Dolphins' backfield. Najee Harris is walking laps. And some other stuff that we might not have time for that we hope to get to. Denny, we would be remiss, though, if we didn't get to this. Another NFL coach quote, one weirdly obsessed with death, has hit the social media interwebs. What is it? What does it mean?
Mike McDaniel, head coach of the Dolphins, seems to be having a good time at training camp, having to address a Tyreek Hill controversy every 48 hours or so. Tyreek, of course, most recently said, maybe Achane shouldn't be our goal line back.
I mean, to be fair, yeah.
I think he has a point. I don't know if you say that to reporters. So Mike McDaniel started his press conference today for some reason dressed up like it's 35 degrees.
Okay, I will let you finish.
I mean, we need to talk about that. But so Mike McDaniel said on why it's a great morning and not just a good morning on Tuesday, quote, because we're another day closer to death. So, Dolphins stuff going well, I think. He's entered his Shanahan phase, obviously, because Shanahan said when asked about Jimmy Garoppolo starting or not starting several years ago, he said, I don't know if any of us will be around in week one, come week one. So I guess it was always, he was always destined to go the Shanny path, and he has.
I have several takes here. One that I wasn't planning on, but does need to be shared. Anyone who wears a designer hoodie will not win a Super Bowl. Like that's just cut and dry, like obvious truth of the NFL. You're not making a Super Bowl if you wear a designer hoodie. You're not making a Super Bowl if your sunglasses cost more than like the rookie minimum salary.
Right.
Like you will not be winning the Super Bowl, Mike McDaniel. Either start dressing like a slob or at least pretend like you don't care. Like that is the key. Bill Belichick cared probably more than anyone on planet Earth how his looks were perceived. It looked like Bill wasn't trying. He was actually trying so hard to appear he didn't care. He pulled it off because he won 6 Super Bowls or whatever.
When it's 119 in South Beach, you can't be walking around wearing a $640 hoodie.
No. You just absolutely. If he's $640, I don't know if you've ever been to Neiman Marcus. Like that thing's at least $2,000. That hoodie there for Mike McDaniel, Denny, and the other thing, the coaches, you got to stop with the fake profundity. I don't even know how you pronounce that. Kyle Shanahan thinks he's a profound guy. Mike McDaniel clearly thinks he's a profound. It's not your lane, man. Like, stay out of it. You actually don't have anything interesting to say on death.
You don't have to say that. Here's what you say to the reporters gathered for your press conference. Good morning. You don't have to go into we're another day closer to death. No. I mean, what are they supposed to say to that? Like, what do you say as a beat writer when the guy you're covering says that? You'd be like, all right, so to the backfield.
So Alexander Mattison, huh?
Yeah, Alexander Mattison. Speaking of that, I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? I actually am starting to understand where Mike McDaniel's coming from. Now that you mentioned that, like, yeah, if I saw Alexander Mattison trying to earn work in my backfield, I might start thinking about how we're
right. And on the Tyreek thing, our
what does any of this matter? Doesn't mean anything. We're all just dust. We're just dust.
Blowing through South Beach when it's 119 and
That's
we're ready. Just real quick and we'll finish up here. But Kyle Dvorak had a good point. Tyreek is both the best and the worst thing to ever happen to Mike McDaniel. He's the only reason the offense has ever worked. And also now he is a thorn in the side of Mike McDaniel every single day at training camp.
Well, you put a bow on it. From dust we came, from dust we shall return. James Cook wrestling with many philosophical questions as well. Like, do I want money? Do I not want money? How do you get money? Does that involve like protesting? Does that involve practicing? He can't pick a lane. Speaking of picking a lane, he reported to camp. He didn't hold in. That didn't work at all because the Bills were like, all right, that's great. Now we definitely are not going to pay you. Right. And he's like, all right, hold on, timeout. Never mind. I am no longer that was a mistake. I am now holding in. I mean, do we care about this? Or is this like the ultimate? It's August 5th. Like the guy's not going to miss game checks.
No, he's not. We
know that. So does it matter at all?
I mean, and also, no, it doesn't. He's going to be ready for week one, whether they sign him or not. I mean, they'll probably, my guess is that like a lot of teams do with their lead back, they'll let him save face by, giving him a little more upfront money for this year or next year, whatever. And they'll just be done with it. But I'm drafting James Cook as if he is going to play week one. And by saying I'm drafting James Cook, I mean I'm not drafting him.
I knew where you were going with that one immediately. Denny Carter continuing on with not drafting James Carter.
Why would you do that?
James Carter. James Cook, the most obvious touchdown regression candidate maybe in the history of fantasy football.
I mean, 18 touchdowns last year. He scored basically every time he touched the ball inside the 10-yard line.
After having 9 the previous 2 years combined. Having Josh Allen isn't quite Jalen Hurts from a calling his own number perspective at the goal line, but he's pretty close. Yeah. Ray Davis was drafted to be the early down hammer. Wasn't quite ready to do that last year. Stands to reason he's probably a little more ready this year. People have baked in some touchdown regression already to James Cook's ADP. Fantasy drafters are just savvier than ever. They never just look at last year's stats and rinse and repeat anymore.
Yeah.
RB15 still, yeah, I know. Unfortunately for us, but RB15 still feels pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get into this with some of the running backs we're going to talk about during this show. I'm just not that into a guy who's not going to see much involvement in the pass game. And with James Cook, you're talking about a guy who last year averaged 2 targets per game. Like that, I'm sorry, that makes me so cold to James Cook going forward and into this season.
And James Cook, every time I see this stat, I truly have to double check. I have it memorized. I'm still double checking it right now. He played 47.7% of the Bills' offensive snaps last year. And
scored on every one.
Yeah, that's just such a hard way to make a living. It is. And it just seems like the ultimate reality check. And the fact that, they're not even like making any effort to pretend they're interested in paying him is also kind of concerning for him. I mean, I guess Kyron Williams just went through this and got paid. Maybe that's an outcome for James Cook, but I don't know. Do you see any reason for the Bills to kick us snaps up beyond 50% when they have Ty Johnson on third down and Ray Davis? It just doesn't.
Ty Johnson's kind of interesting for deeper league purposes, but I think the difference between Kyron Williams and James Cook is that the Rams love Kyron Williams. Sean McVay talks about Kyron Williams like he was Todd Gurley back in the day.
Even though he keeps trying to draft his replacement every year. It's weird.
That's weird. But the Bills with James Cook, I mean, they're icy when they
are. He's an on the roster guy.
James Cook. He's on the roster. This is what we can confirm.
James Cook on the roster. James Cook on Denny and I's do not draft list. Apparently, you don't have that luxury. Of course, everyone is a value at a certain point. Khalil Shakir, someone who's been very much on my draft list, has been hanging around wide receiver 46, 47. Seems crazy to me for someone. This thing's almost guaranteed to finish in the top 36, unless Keon Coleman takes a big step forward. Unless Josh Palmer is one of the better signings of free agency, which I actually do admit is a possibility, but I was full steam ahead on Khalil Shakir. Then he now has a high ankle sprain. He had a similar ankle injury last year that I think he only missed 1 game with. Maybe not the biggest concern in the world. I actually don't remember if it's the same ankle. I should have double-checked that before the show, but clearly he's going to be ready for week 1. I think even with a 5 to 6 week timeline, it seems like he'll be out there, but do we care about Khalil Shakir missing now the bulk of training camp, the entire preseason?
I care a little bit. I mean, it's good that it happened in early August rather than late August, obviously. I was kind of banking on him being like asserting himself, because they signed him to a really big contract, considering his numbers over the past couple of years. I wrote a piece in the offseason about Khalil Shakir, profiling as a guy who commands targets at a very high rate. So that's really good, for fantasy purposes going forward. But mostly I'm just mad that I'm going to be forced into drafting Curtis Samuel again.
No.
If
Shakir,
if Shakir's out,
this is a bit, right?
This is not a bit.
I genuinely don't know if this is
Curtis Samuel gets into the slot and runs 85% of the routes from the slot. Right. I hate it. Just trust me, as someone who has been burned by Curtis Samuel, but it's happening. We have to acknowledge it. Also, it's Josh Palmer season. There's nothing to say about it. It's just it is.
Thank you. So listen, I assured you, even though you claimed you thought it was funny, that I was never going to cut your mic again. I was pretty close when you're hyping up Curtis Samuel. I'm stunned you didn't use your opportunity there, your platform there, to hype up Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer is a Denny guy. Yeah. Josh Palmer, always kind of sneakily productive for the Chargers. He seemed like the classic free agent signing that happens. People don't really pay attention to at the time.
Absolutely.
Early in training camp, some people are like, maybe we should be talking about this. And then we never do. And even though we know we should be talking about it, we just don't pay attention to it. And then week one, it's like, 8 to 9 targets for Josh Palmer.
Yeah, 35% target share.
Exactly. That seems eerily plausible to me. How does that sound to you?
It does, yeah. So Palmer, to me, profiles as a guy who you got to get if you are like avoiding receivers high in the draft, right? If you're just stocking up on other positions, running back, quarterback, tight end, whatever, and then you're just trying to piece together some receivers, Palmer's a guy you got to get, especially with this Shakir injury. High ankle sprain. Has it ever been higher? Has it been lower? The team, the fact that the team called it immediately off the bat a high ankle sprain makes me a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
A little bit nauseous. About
I don't usually do that in the summer. Sometimes the foot. They mumble it too. Like, coach, did you say foot? No,
foot / undisclosed.
They just keep mumbling until you finally move on. And
the fact that they were immediately like high ankle, that's not good. So what? It's like his knee. I mean. Palmer doesn't, obviously he won't play the slot. He'll be on the boundary. He's a sneaky guy. Just be aware that he should be drafted in 12-team leagues, I think.
Palmer's also the kind of guy like the wide receiver 60 to 65 range where almost everyone in that range is either like a really injured veteran or like a really questionable rookie. He's the rare vet who's just kind of there in his prime, has a history of production. It's not like high-end fantasy production by any means, but he's a guy sitting out there who actually plays, who actually produces. You don't typically find a veteran in that range. Well, that's why I agree. A veteran who's healthy, I should say. Right. Well, that's why I agree. He's just someone that really does need to be drafted because there kind of just no strings attached to that, to what is a zero downside flyer. And Josh Palmer is a really, really great pick in that range. But yeah, don't ask Sean McDermott about the ankle. Ask him about something he really wants to talk about. Ask him about death. That's all they want to talk about anymore.
Yes,
it's the hot new trend. NFL coaches only talking about death when you ask them how their day is going. That seems not great. Seems not great for Aaron Jones that Jordan Mason, the Vikings trade edition, is being called a, quote, genuine co-RB1 by ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. Also, Jeremy Fowler, very interesting reporter. He reports a lot of stuff. He kind of reports like everything he hears. Some of it's true. Some of it's not true. He's a very good reporter. He shares what he hears. Like he's not like holding things back. Right. So sometimes it doesn't happen. But he's not the only one to report this on Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. And the Vikings, in fact, have basically been like shouting this from the rooftops even before they got Jordan Mason. In January and February, the tenor was, we need to get a real backfield partner for Aaron Jones because we're not hitting on 17 again, that Aaron Jones is going to stay healthy for 17 games. Like we know we kind of got lucky there. Ty Chandler wasn't the answer. Yeah. Cam Akers wasn't the answer. A purposeful move to go out and get Jordan Mason. They want him to be the goal line back. The news continues to be bad for Aaron Jones. Would you draft Jordan Mason ahead of Aaron Jones? The ADPs are very similar, so it wouldn't be a controversial take one way or another. But are you to the point where you're saying Mason ahead of Jones?
I mean, Mason, I think, is one of those backs I referenced a few minutes ago where, sure, like he could see like 15 carries in a game and, give you, 75 scoreless yards. And it's just not much there. He's not going to be the pass catching back from what I'm reading. I think Fowler did kind of hint at the fact that Jones would be the pass catching back. And that's very valuable, especially if you're playing in the only legitimate scoring system, PPR. And so I actually would take Jones still over Mason. I could be burned by that if Mason just gets all the goal line carries and all the high leverage stuff. But I want that PPR production. Mason doesn't give that to me.
I think I am. I'm taking Mason, and it's a rare situation where I am just hunting touchdowns. I think Jordan Mason's probably going to double up Aaron Jones in touchdowns, where Aaron Jones, just to me this year, looks like the ultimate between the 20s back. Or it's not like they're not going to trust him at the goal line, but when they have the opportunity to like get their goal line package out there, it's going to be Jordan Mason. Like maybe if they're going hurry up, they'll trust Aaron Jones. But two, he's always been a really good pass catching back. Teams have never thrown to him quite as much as I feel like they should. Even some of the years where he has like 50 receptions,
yeah,
it
he's
seems like
really
he should
good.
catch more.
Yeah.
He's really good, but I mean, think of target competition for running back. You have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. Like it's not as stiff as it gets. And I do feel, especially too, how much they're signaling like, listen, guys, it's over.
Yeah.
Like, they're not trying to mislead fantasy managers. They're trying to be very upfront, like, don't draft Aaron Jones.
I mean, the Vikings were very aggressive in getting Jordan Mason. You know, you kind of have to pay attention to those things. He didn't just fall into their laps. Like, they really wanted this guy. Mason was ultra efficient in the Niners offense, but then again, everybody is. Like, every single running back in that system is just instantly like, wow, I didn't know this guy was like elite, like a Derrick Henry style running back. And then they go somewhere else and kind of evens out. This Vikings backfield to me, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty here, which you want to seize on for fantasy purposes. Like, you don't want to say, oh, that's uncertain, I'm leaving that for someone else. You want to take advantage of that. So really, I guess what I'm looking for is for Aaron Jones to fall a little bit upon this news, and then I can scoop him up, kind of leave Mason for somebody else.
That's a really good take. Is Aaron Jones is basically a guaranteed faller, and he could be the ultimate. Uncertainty is opportunity. And if he's more, he's RB 28. If he's more like RB 33, 34, that would be a pretty steep fall at this point. But I think that could happen.
Yeah,
he does start to get a lot more appetizing at that point, especially because all it takes is 1 2 to 3 week injury, and he's a lead back for 2 to 3 weeks. And maybe Jordan Mason never gets the roll back after he comes back from injury.
Right. I mean, if you pick the right Vikings back, it's going to pay off. And by that, I mean, if the other guy goes down, misses some time, it's going to be probably, not 100%, but 70% workload for the other guy. If
you pick the right Vikings back, you're calling the county, you're getting the bulldozer, the wrecking ball to your backyard. The dollar zone is being destroyed tomorrow.
Take it down.
Not next week, not next month, tomorrow. In fact, today. Right. Get it down today. It's coming down today. I've got the deed to my house back because I drafted Jordan Mason.
Jordan Mason, high ankle sprain. Bring that dollar tree down.
The dollar zone, Denny. The next one. I mean, man, this is the kind of, I see this in the sheet. Like, why did I put this here?
What is it?
Rattler, quote, clearly outplaying Shough, which I put it there because we have to talk about it. Where my party line all summer on the Saints, quote unquote, quarterback competition is that it was a competition in name only. And as long as Tyler Shough didn't go out there and just stink up the joint, he was going to get the job. Per New Orleans.football's Nick Underhill, Denny, it sounds like he's stinking up the joint.
Take our
listeners through it. Yeah, it is. Take our listeners through it. What does it mean, if anything?
It smells crazy at Saints camp. Let's say that. I mean, look, I told you before the show, this morning, I went through a bunch of Nick Underhill posts from the past 3 or 4 days, a bunch of other Saints beat writers who are live posting, training camp, right? And you get a feel. You don't base your fantasy picks or analysis on this, but you get a feel, right, for what's happening. And I'm telling you, I couldn't find one positive Tyler Shough post. Everything was take sack, throws the ball away, checks down, throws a pick in the middle, overthrows on a deep ball. But basically what he did in college, okay?
So, yeah, it sounds like someone who was never even good in college.
Never good. He's in the never good Hall of Fame. I don't understand what they're thinking here. Now,
I got to cut you off real quick. So what they're thinking is the never good Hall of Fame was founded by Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, right,
It's kind of what's happening here. And they're like, surely we're not going to instantly get another member of the Never Good Hall of Fame.
They have a bust of Rattler in the Never Good Hall of Fame.
They do.
Rattler, so Rattler was, I mean, the metrics are actually could make you cry if you look hard enough. It just horrific. Like one of the worst short area guys, terrible in the intermediate, like okay downfield only because Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave like saved his bacon a few times.
They melt the models.
Yeah. I mean, really like completion rate over expected, like never before seen low numbers here. So he's terrible. Both of these guys are going to play. I think, for fantasy purposes, I feel like Rattler is probably the better option. I want to be clear. Let me be clear. Do not draft either of these guys.
Trying to cut his mic. I can't do it.
Okay. What I'm saying is for Shaheed, for Olave, for whoever else plays for the Saints. I think you want Rattler because he is willing to throw the ball into tight windows, willing to chuck it downfield.
He's willing to get it picked up. He's willing to turn every DB into Ed Reed. He is willing to do that.
That's all we can ask for. And Tyler Shough is not willing to do that. The thing I keep coming back to is when you and Kyle were like, by the way, Shough led the entire nation in throwaways last year, and that's why his metrics don't look so bad. And I was like, no, but it's true, and he led by like a large margin, right? Like,
yes, he did.
So this guy got into the NFL by throwing the ball out of bounds. It's terrible.
It is terrible, but yeah, Spencer Rattler's thing is turning every opposing safety into Ed Reed and putting them into the Hall of Fame. And as the point I made in our VODs that I have to make, of course, on the podcast is like Spencer Rattler's entire football existence, like his entire bit is deceiving coaches in practice. That he's actually good. And the Saints are somehow falling for it again. But the real takeaway is that this is a disaster zone. Like this is just, it's not happening in New Orleans this year. It's a disaster zone. And it'd be one thing for Chris Olave if this was his only concern. Chris Olave has the concussion concerns. Rashid Shaheed has the concerns of like, I'm a guy who needs quality targets down the field or you're taking a zero. And Tyler Shough, Spencer Rattler, are they really doing that? The Saints, things could not get worse than whatever Dennis Allen was doing, whoever Dennis Allen had calling plays. Like the after effects of the Sean Payton era were just so dismal. Like things truly cannot get worse than they were. But I just don't think they're getting better in any material way that matters for the Saints.
I feel like Shedeur Sanders would have been a good option.
He would have. He absolutely would have. They got two in their own head. And
or maybe he refused. Maybe he didn't want to play for them, which I understand because this is a wreck of a franchise.
They also didn't listen, unlike you, to the local New Orleans media, who was absolutely begging them to select Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
Pleading on the nightly over-the-air news, even the local NBC affiliate, pleading with them to draft Jackson.
Right. They got the whole news crew together, and they said they were holding a candlelight.
They baked a cake for some. Didn't really understand why a cake was involved.
They're always baking cakes in New Orleans for whatever reason. They said they're going on a fast until the Saints draft Tyler Shough. I don't know how that ended.
What are those famous New Orleans cake called? The baby cakes. King cakes, yeah, boy, those are good. Have those around Lent here in Missouri. We a very heavily Catholic dominated area, a very dominated by a break area of the podcast. We'll be right back after this. Tune in to NBC Sports Now for all the biggest stories in sports beginning at 7 a.m. Eastern with PFT Live, followed by the Dan Patrick Show, the Dan Lebitard Show, Fantasy Football Happy Hour, and Chris Sims Unbuttoned. The NBC Sports Now channel is available on Peacock, the Roku channel, Samsung TV Plus, and more. Visit NBCSports.com/now for more details. I keep leaving out Lebitard's co-host name because I don't know how to pronounce it, and I don't want to sound dumb. Someone already told me I sounded dumb a different time I did it, and we're leaving it out until I look very powerfully into how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Until Stu Gotts, is that Stu Gotts? I've seen this guy tweeted out for years. Yeah, he told us it's Stu Gotts.
Cut Pat's mic.
The Dan Lebitard Show with Stu Gotts. Very funny guy, actually. So it is very much worth listening to on the NBC Sports Now channel. It's very much worth listening to the people who are saying panic about Kaleb Johnson, that he's a bad pick. Yeah, my take all along has been just, it was all vibes based. Like, yeah, Kaleb Johnson just seems like a really bad pick. Like, I don't want the 2 down back in the Arthur Smith, Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin, like end times, like the most obvious ever final year of like a dynasty ever. Like the after, like the hangover effect from the Steelers. The Steelers have been in a Super Bowl hangover for 15 years. Like, by far, they have just annihilated the Guinness Book of World Records record for longest Super Bowl hangover. This is the end in 2025. I want no part of any of it. But now there are other reasons to fade Kaleb Johnson and Pierce. What are they?
Well, the unofficial depth chart was released today by the Steelers, and it has Jaylen Warren as the RB1. It has my guy, Kenneth Gainwell, as RB2. And it has Kaleb Johnson as RB3. And this comes about a week after reports that the dreaded pass pro issues for the rookie Kaleb Johnson, which honestly, you want to know something? It was forecast by Kaleb Johnson himself in spring practices. We have a blurb somewhere. I wrote it where Kaleb Johnson was like, "Yeah, the one thing I'm not good at is pass protection." And
the Steelers immediately called the NFL like, "Can you redo picks?
Right? Can we reset the draft?"
Can we
and he was like, "But I heard Jaylen Warren is good at it, so I'm going to talk to him."
Our internet cut out. We didn't mean to do that Kaleb Johnson pick. Can you roll that back? It's 9 people have already picked. I can't roll the draft back.
We'll literally take anyone else. If
Sorry.
So okay, all that to say, Kaleb Johnson also was really productive in college.
Yeah, for Iowa, it doesn't matter. Fake conference, fake team, fake offense, never accomplish anything.
I'm not falling for that again. He's a big back, and the Steelers basically exist to give the ball to big backs. So I could see him carving out a role of some kind. Will it be fantasy friendly? It will not be. The takeaway here is Jaylen Warren season.
I think so too. Well, though it'll never be Jaylen Warren. Let me be clear. It will never be Jaylen Warren season ever. We've tried this one 3 or 4 different times now. It will never be Jaylen Warren season. But hold on. Just because it will never be Jaylen Warren season does not mean it'll be Kaleb Johnson season. And my take on Kaleb Johnson is that even in the best case outcome, it doesn't matter. Oh, wow, you're the 2 down back for the slowest paced team in the league. One where all the quarterback does in the red zone is stat chase and try to pad his resume and throw the ball 19 straight times to Devontae Adams, who's not even on the team. And none of them are touchdowns. Yeah. Like, it's not going anywhere, the Kaleb Johnson thing. This could really explode in my face. This is the one where I've gone like the most like negative on the record, but I just don't see this going anywhere. It's a horrible offense. All the quarterback does is stat chase in the red zone.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Here's one thing that I'll throw out there as a potential positive for Kaleb Johnson. So Arthur Smith, famous for running zone running plays, right? That's his thing. He runs that more than almost anybody. Kaleb Johnson comes from a zone running system at Iowa.
He was team, fake school, fake conference, but
really good in that system. So maybe the pieces fit there. We'll see. But honestly, it's going to take like a Warren injury, and then don't forget Gainwell. Like, if Warren gets dinged up at some point this season, it's Gainwell probably as the lead back, and then Kaleb Johnson as the complement.
I'm surprised you didn't lead with Gainwell, because that is the more appropriate Denny take, and that coaches are here to do 2 things. They're here to win football games and instantly fall in love with Kenneth Gainwell. And the Steelers have been out of winning football games for like a really long time. He's the absolute dog. He's the Eagles. The only way the Eagles finally got back to the Super Bowl and won it was they had to physically remove Kenneth Gainwell from the roster. It's like, we've got to actually sign a real running back. And even with Saquon Barkley on the roster, if Kenneth Gainwell is on the roster, oh no, he was on the roster last year.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
This falls apart. Never mind, I forgot that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where he actually had a good game against the Steelers, so they signed him.
Oh yeah, that's so obvious.
Yeah, and then Mike Tomlin really sung his praises in the offseason, so you have to remember that.
Who was the running back they got rid of last year? Boston Scott. Oh, that might have been 2 years ago already at this point. I knew they got rid of somebody, but it was just this year. They got rid of Kenneth Gainwell. We're getting rid of this as a topic and moving on to Denny finding more panic chum out there. Everyone's panic. It's about the time of training camp where everything is panic. Like the coach just make like one offhanded comment to the media, like, yeah, he's not good. And then the media like goes crazy. And like, of course, they actually said that, that'd be reason to panic. But apparently it seems like the vibes aren't great for Cam Skattebo and New York Giants camp. One of the reasons they're not great is because they're not anything right now because he's not practicing. Right. This has led ESPN's Jordan Renan to just declare it over, quote, no competition. Tyrone Tracy, the guy who never, ever stops fumbling, is apparently a clear-cut RB1. You bought it hook, line, and sinker, Denny. Tell people why you're concerned, why you're panicking on Cam Skattebo.
I was, let me just say, surprised at how adamant Jordan Renan was in this interview. He did a radio interview on Tuesday morning where he said 100% this is Tracy's job. There is no competition.
Got to be honest, that feels high.
Yeah.
It feels high.
So he said there was no backfield competition. There never was going to be backfield competition. Cam Skattebo was never going to be a big part of this offense. So they spent a 4th rounder on a guy they had no plans for.
Yeah, more draft capital than they invested in Tyrone Tracy 1 year ago.
Exactly. Skattebo reportedly was doing quite well as a pass catching back in training camp before the hamstring injury. He has struggled with soft tissue injuries in college. So it's really not a great sign. And the fact that he's probably going to miss like a week or more with this thing while Tracy, I guess, is blowing up camp. But I'm going to urge some brake pumping at the moment because Tracy was not good last year by any stretch. He had some explosive plays, but overall not good. 4 fumbles, 6 drops, 15% drop rate, 3rd highest in the league last year. Lots of mental errors, lots of missed blocks. He got benched several times for those errors. Unless he's a completely different back in 2025, then I think that Skattebo or Singletary or somebody is going to kind of sneak their way in there and make this a timeshare backfield. He wasn't even good as a rusher, 37th among 60 qualifying running backs in rush yards after contact. Like he wasn't, he just didn't check any of the boxes for me. So despite what Jordan Renan said, I'm still holding out hope that Skattebo can carve out a role here.
Yeah, let me read you a future tweet. 10 days from now, the Giants are doing joint practices with someone, say like the Ravens, and the entire Giants media is there. Some national media are there. Let's just say Tom Pelissero is there. Tyrone Tracy just put the ball on the ground for 2nd time in live practice with Ravens. Brian Dable is hot. Yeah. Just yanked him out of the huddle. Wow. Cam Skattebo, who returned to practice yesterday, now taking first team reps. Like it's just way.
I think Rotopad just predicted the future. I think we need to clip that. I think we need to save it because that's happening.
It's happening for sure. And it's just August 5th. Cannot get too far ahead of yourself. And listen, Jordan Renan's not saying this out of thin air, but also not Cam Skattebo quite literally has better draft capital than Tyrone Tracy, who, as you just pointed out at length, was not good as a rookie. Good. Especially the fumbling thing is a scarlet letter. Like the coaches never forget that. They never truly trust you again. Unless you're Adrian Peterson or Nick Chubb, they'd never trust you again if you're a fumbler. And Tyrone Tracy was not a future Adrian Peterson as a rookie.
No, I don't think so.
There's just many, many more twists and turns in this one. So don't call it over just yet. Tyreek Hill said it was over for Devin Achane at the goal line, Denny. And Alexander Mattison, he's on the team. Jalen Wright. I know the thing about the Alexander Mattison report is that it was not a Jalen Wright report. That's my takeaway from this. That Alexander Mattison, what was it? He's mixing in a short area and goal line looks. Yeah.
I as someone, and we both saw Mattison at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. He's an impressive guy. He is large, a huge man, and I understand how he could look good in training camp. The metrics tell a different story. We're talking about the only worst running back in the NFL over the past 2 seasons per EPA is Zamir White. That's it. Zamir White, Alexander Mattison. I think they shared the backfield in Vegas for a little bit. Great, Raiders front office, amazing looking at the spreadsheets there. I don't worry about this at all. Tyreek Hill, yeah, he did come out and he said maybe we should not use Achane at the goal line because he's small. And Mike McDaniel was like, that's not happening. Like, we're going to use him at the goal line. Also, Achane gets a lot of red zone targets from when Tua is under center. Okay, the key is Tua under center, right? He averaged over 6 receptions per game, I believe, if I remember that correctly, when Tua started last year. So I'm not Achane. It's Achane wheels up. I'm finally in on Achane.
Finally, hold on. I was like kind of tuned out for the first half of this because I was expecting it to go in a certain direction, and it didn't. Has you in on Achane? All of this has you in on Achane? That was your takeaway.
I'm in.
You're in because the negative reports. They have not been. They have been mixing in the other guys to the goal line. Apparently,
I don't care.
They listened to Tyreek immediately.
Achane is Jamal Charles. I've come to accept that. It's time to invest. It's time to go in.
Wow, that's not the take at all I was expecting.
I'm sorry. I did not see the light. I have not seen the light on Achane. You guys tried to get me to see the light last year, and I was real close to being burned bad by that guy last year because of Tua's situation. It didn't really work out.
Didn't really work out at all. Wow. The Dolphins won. There's going to be a lot more twists and turns here because Jalen Wright had kind of been getting a little steam in summer drafts. Now, an Alexander Mattison report, never know what to make of that. So we'll be keeping you updated on the Dolphins backfield. We'll be keeping you updated on a lot of backfields when we come right back after this. It's a postseason that's tougher than ever for the PGA Tour's best, and it begins at the St. Jude Championship this week. Watch the FedEx Cup playoffs on NBC Golf Channel and streaming on Peacock. Denny, will you be watching?
Yeah. I mean, I like a larger field, but I'm not going to complain. I'm still going to watch NBC and Peacock and all of it. And by the way, Patrick Rogers is the guy this week. Watch out.
All right, Patrick Rogers. You heard it here first from Denny. You heard it here first from me. Actually, second, because I said at the beginning of the show that now we're going to talk about some running backs we want to see in the preseason. Denny came up with a really good list of 5. Before we got to that, I did want to add one guy to the list. The Chicago backfield had already kind of been fascinating me because the Bears just didn't do anything to address what was not a good situation. DeAndre Swift was a disaster of a lead back last year. Roschon Johnson has not been it in the NFL. New Bears coach Ben Johnson was party to a trade of DeAndre Swift in Detroit, but all Chicago did in the draft or free agency was use a 6th-round pick on Kyle
Monangai.
Monangai. We practiced this before the show. I can't say it at all. Kyle M. Many are calling him Kyle M. He was the only guy who was added. And the Bears head coach Ben Johnson said he thinks he will be, quote, a guy that we're going to be able to trust this fall. I've been looking for reasons to panic on DeAndre Swift because he just seems to me like a great running back dead zone pick. So I didn't think they had any other options, and they've not been indicating they had any other options. Now they do seem like they're indicating they have other options here, Denny. I mean, Is he worthy of watching closely this preseason? Kyle M.
For sure. Monangai, I believe.
No, it's Monangai. It's really hard. It's shockingly difficult.
Well, Kyle. Monangai.
Monangai. Per the AI, per producer Adam.
Thank you to our robot overlords. Yeah, I mean, he's the 0 RB guy in this backfield because, I mean, the idea would be Swift fails to impress again. Ben Johnson is not going to live with that, so he benches or scales back Swift.
DeAndre Swift is allowed one mistake at the most.
That's it. You're right. Absolutely. Roschon Johnson, I'm going to spare you the gory details, but the metrics are otherworldly bad.
Hellacious.
He's so bad. Like, I don't even understand how he's on a roster. And our guy Kyle Dvorak, he seems like Roschon Johnson. I'm gonna have to talk to him about that. I don't get it. So who are you left with? You're left with Monangai. And if he's gonna be the guy who sees, I don't know, 12, 15 touches at some point this season, you're gonna want to stash him, especially if you're doing the 0 RB thing and you're just looking to hit on a guy who gets an opportunity as a lead back.
Kyle Monangai does seem like there's an ultimate 0 RB pick. And there's a chance in 2 or 3 weeks where he's no longer a 0 RB guy, that like a drumbeat begins. He's been steamed because DeAndre Swift, not an impressive camp. Monangai has a few nice preseason plays. They keep giving him more first-team reps in practice. He's definitely someone to keep an eye on this month. Danny, the first guy that you wanted to keep an eye on this month, a big name in fantasy circles, someone we've already talked about a lot, but the reports continue to be positive on this Dallas Cowboys rookie. Who is it? What do we want to see?
Jaydon Blue, he's a guy I really hadn't, kept close tabs on this offseason, especially after that report where coaches were apparently not thrilled with his work effort, with work ethic.
Let's be real. One former coach who was in Dallas 25 years ago.
Was it anonymous or was it someone?
No, it wasn't anonymous. It was a guy who literally had not coached for the Cowboys for 25 years, though.
Well,
I think he was probably laundering real sentiment, is my guess. That's kind of how these things work sometimes.
Yeah.
Where he still has friends in the organization, maybe even Jerry Jones, and someone says to him, Jaydon Blue isn't working hard in minicamp. And then he goes on a podcast and shares that. But it was one former offensive line coach from 25 years.
Since coaches can't be upfront with players anymore, I guess they had to launder that through the media to light a fire under the rookie. And it's worked because he has been really impressive over the past couple weeks. He's seeing some first team reps after seeing none early, throughout the spring and then early in camp.
Or ever in college either.
Yeah, the college stuff is tough because, none of the metrics were very good. He was used as a pass catcher a lot, like a ton, in the context of college offenses, which really don't use the running back as a pass catcher very much. That could pay off here. Also, he's fast. He's not just like, oh man, that guy's kind of fast. He might be the fastest guy in the whole league besides Devon Achane. Like, a 4.2. I think that he ran a 4.2 40. Either his personal workout or
personal workout doesn't matter at all, but it was a very, very fast combine 40.
But Brian Schottenheimer had a comment on Blue recently. I think that, really like piqued my interest because I hadn't heard him talking about Blue at all this season, but he said, I think in the spring, talking about Blue, I think in the spring, he picked it up maybe slower than we had hoped. Not now. He's got it. He's figuring it out. He's one of those guys that doesn't say much, but there's a big time competitive fire there. He wants to be great. He wants to be elite. He's very talented. I think there's some recognition that he might be like talent wise the best that they have because Javonte Williams, not good. Miles Sanders, obviously not good.
Never been good.
Now, if you draft Jaydon Blue, I don't think you can expect to just slot him into your lineup. It's going to take some effort, some work here. It's going to take some trial and error on the part of the Dallas offense to be like, we're going to try Javonte Williams. We're going to try Miles Sanders. And now Jaydon Blue, and he breaks an 85-yarder. And that's the hope.
The thing with Jaydon Blue, too, is the ceiling is still more limited than it is for some guys. Because I don't think the ceiling involves being a 3-down running back at all.
I don't think so. No.
The Jaydon Blue case was always that he has the best shot at like a clearly defined role. Like there's this jumble. What is something straightforward that could happen? Something that's straightforward that could happen is Jaydon Blue being the pass catching back, the change of pace back. And so far he appears very much on track to earning that, where that was always the Jaydon Blue hope, I think, is that these dots make sense. These could be connected without anything else happening. Like he could make this happen all by himself. He appears to be doing that right now. And the Brian Schottenheimer comments too, where they said he doesn't talk much, I think could have maybe been an admission too, but maybe in the spring they just didn't understand his personality. And maybe they took like a lack of talking, a lack of yelling, let's go after every big run, as that he didn't want it and that he wasn't working hard. And then he was saying, in training camp, actually, no, that was entirely wrong. Like this guy wants it really bad, actually. We've talked about Jaydon Blue a lot. We've talked about the second running back a lot. Why do we want to see this guy during the preseason? He plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars, in case you're wondering which player I'm prompting you on.
Thank you. Bhayshul Tuten, for a few reasons. Tuten is kind of an analytics fever dream coming out of college. And we know that because Jimmy Gladstone, I call him Jimmy, not James, because I know him personally.
St. Louis's own.
We go to the same barber. And he's the GM for the Jags, by the way. He mentioned Tuten during an interview, for the GM job in Jacksonville as a guy he would target. they happen to get him in the draft. I feel like no matter what happens, and Tuten's been banged up and he's been struggling and the reports are not great.
Yeah, it's over.
I mean, it feels somewhat over.
Yeah, who's the third? Sorry.
Except for the fact that the team, I think, wants him to succeed. And also Travis Etienne was like bottom of the barrel bad last year. I don't know if he can turn that around so easily. I will say Tuten, his best case scenario is probably as like a 1B and a pass catching guy out of the backfield, which is fine. I think, for 12 team PPR leagues, I think that can work.
I think Tuten's best case scenario is basically being Jaydon Blue, which in the ADPs just do not reflect that. He's the RB41. Blue has actually crept into the top 50 finally, the RB58. But that is the problem with Tuten. But the not problem with Tuten is to say they not only do they want him to succeed, it's strong. They don't want Travis Etienne to fail, but they've already seen him fail. In their minds, Travis Etienne has failed at this job. They want any other option. If Bhayshul Tuten gives them part of that, because they want a committee between Tank Bigsby and Bhayshul Tuten, I feel like. And they want to give Travis Etienne some glorified between the 20s work if he's going to remain on the team. And yeah, Tuten is a guy where pay attention to positive reports this month because there's going to be motivated reasoning from the Jags. All right, he's good again. This is great. We can actually use him.
Yeah.
So Tuten would be a guy where I would pay attention to the puff pieces because it means the Jags are still on board with this project.
And you have to remember Tuten is the current regime's guy. Tank Bigsby and Etienne are the previous regime's guy. Actually, I guess Etienne is the previous.
Yeah, that's true. So James Gladstone, by the way, stolen on the way out the door from St. Louis by the Rams. Is how he got into front offices, taken from our fine, proud city. Denny, the third one is Tyjae Spears. And just today, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported people I've talked to in Tennessee believe Spears has positioned himself for an uptick in opportunities this season. What are we expecting? What are we hoping to see from Tyjae Spears the rest of the month of August?
Spears has been really good when he functions as the lead back, and that's all. It's almost always through injury. He's a really good pass catcher as far as the numbers go. Yards after contact is really good. Yards before contact is good. Tyjae Spears, what they should have done if they had a functional front office in Tennessee is they should have just leaned on him last year and not given Tony Pollard a big contract. Somebody would have paid Tony Pollard.
It was the ultimate year too, where the Titans were just seeing what they had last year.
Yeah.
Why did they not see what they had in Tyjae Spears?
They didn't see. They did not see. The coaches have talked about a change in attitude for Spears. I know he suffered some concussions last year. I think he was kind of down. They
alluded to some personal issues.
And he had personal issues. He had missed some practice time, apparently. They said, Callahan, the head coach, said that's all out of the way for Spears. So, just anecdotally, it seems positive for Tyjae Spears. Do you have the RB ADP?
I do. Tyjae Spears is currently the RB38. Tony Pollard is currently the RB27.
Okay, that's enough of a gap for me to take Spears there.
For sure.
And hope that he can prove himself. The thing is, though, Pollard's not just simply not going away. He's not just going to be reduced to a nothing role. It would probably take a Pollard injury. I think both of them are okay picks, but Spears could be special, I feel like.
It does seem like just a classic zero RB too, where there's not a whole lot of difference between the guys. The Titans coaching staff itself constantly talks up how there's no difference between them. And so if there's no difference between them, just draft the guy whose ADP is considerably lower than Tony Pollard. I do fear that if Cam Ward is an attempts or a quarterback stat guy, Pollard gets the first crack always, that he's just catching a lot of passes and kind of keeping Tyjae Spears at bay. Tyjae Spears, a very, very intriguing guy this summer. You're very intrigued by the Eagles backfield. I think a lot of fantasy managers are intrigued by one of these backs. You insist on making it darker and deeper and more despairing with the second back that you're throwing in there. Who are the two backs in the great state of Pennsylvania that you're looking to see this summer?
The zero RB folks, they want to know who would get the workload if the starter misses time, right? Well, we don't want to know, who's going to split the backfield. We don't want to know who's going to be the RB3. And I need to know whether it's going to be Will Shipley or AJ Dillon
I can tell you right now, it's not going to be A.J. Dillon.
No, I wish you were right. Look, in an ideal world, all of my best ball Will Shipley shares would be gold right now if Barkley misses time. But it's not, because I keep seeing, scuttlebutt beat writers being like, hey, Dillon is doing stuff. Dillon is carving out a role as the backup. And Will Shipley will be part of the offense if Barkley misses time, this and that. So, I don't know. I don't know if we can just say, oh, it's definitely Shipley. I don't think we can do that. Shipley, I think, showed a little bit of something. I mean, I don't know if you remember against the Commanders in the playoffs last year in the NFC title game. He just wrecked the Commanders on that one drive that he had where Barkley was taken out because it was a blowout. I feel like Shipley has the juice. I don't know if the Eagles recognize that. So that could be a problem.
He showed a little juice. A.J. Dillon has just never showed any juice.
No, yeah.
I do agree, though. It's not good that Dillon's name's coming up at all. And it's not fantasy managers bringing it up. It is people in Philadelphia.
No, if it were up to fantasy managers, we would just be like, yeah, it's Shipley. That doesn't seem to be the case. So something to monitor. I definitely want to watch out for their preseason usage. I want to keep tracking that backfield because, if you can get the lead back for the Eagles, man, I mean, you're cooking.
And quickly, one final guy you want to focus on. The guy in front of him was just extended Tuesday morning. Kyren Williams finally got his long-sought extension. But the Rams drafted Blake Corum in the second or third round last year, I believe third round. They drafted Jarquez Hunter in the third round again this year. A seeming huge vote of no confidence in Blake Corum.
Right.
What are you looking to see from Jarquez Hunter this summer?
I would think Hunter has the edge to be the RB2 behind Kyren Williams. This is a situation where I believe Hunter, despite I know a lot of analysts out there probably would disagree and say, no, Hunter will find his way into the offense because he is good. I mean, he's very productive, very efficient as a pass catcher and a rusher. I get all that. I also cannot ignore that Sean McVay and the Rams love Kyren Williams. And I just don't see a scenario where they're going to be like, Kyren, come off the field for a couple drives. We're going to put the rookie in. So Hunter is a contingency back, but an exciting one. And I think much better than Blake Corum.
I'll say my galaxy brain take on Kyren Williams' situation is that maybe now that he is extended, they might almost feel more comfortable pulling him off the field just because there's no longer anything left to prove in the relationship between the player and the coaching staff, and that maybe they can finally relax because there was always this weird undercurrent of like, Kyren's been productive. We love Kyren, but we're not sure if we want to pay Kyren. And just now that the relationship is on more like solid equal footing, I almost wonder if like Kyren too will be more willing to be taken off the field because he doesn't have to prove it, because they clearly want to spell him because they think Kyren, they know he has an injury history. You're not using third round, fourth round draft capital on these guys if you don't want to spell Kyren. I almost just wonder if counterintuitively, now he's been paid, they'll be more willing to spell him. Yeah. So I would be open to it. But yeah, they love Kyren. McVay never wanted to pay another running back after the Todd Gurley debacle, and he still brought himself to pay Kyren Williams.
One thing on Hunter, he's just very elusive, which Kyren Williams is not. He forced a tackle on 32% of his rushing attempts in college. That's a very high rate. It's just like, that's the kind of thing that grabs your attention. Oh, maybe this guy has enough juice for Sean McVay to not be able to completely ignore him.
Really, really good stuff from Mr. Denny Carter today. Really good stuff from the nation's beat writers and national reporters giving us things to talk about. Denny doesn't know this. Kyle Dvorchak doesn't know this, but when Kyle joins us on Thursday, I think we're going to talk about players whose ADPs could drastically change this month. Right. We're going to come up with some people where we're going to predict ADP shifts. We're going to, of course, check in on all the latest news. And yeah, we're doing that with Kyle Dvorchak on Thursday. So for Denny Carter and Patrick Daugherty, thank you so much for listening. We will be back with you in 2 days' time.